I always knew my family didn't quite understand me. While other kids had parents who encouraged their dreams, mine just tolerated me. I was the serious one, the boring one, the one who didn't get into trouble or cause drama. I kept my head down, worked hard, stayed out of fights, and focused on school. My dream was to graduate with honors, publish my research, and build a life far away from the noise that surrounded me every day. But my family never really saw that. They only saw a quiet girl who buried herself in books and didn't know how to have fun, like Armin. Armin was my younger brother, 2 years behind me in age but light, years behind in maturity. He was the golden boy, loud, charismatic, messy. He was the type of kid who could break a vase, lie about it to your face, and still get dessert after dinner. Every time he did something wrong, my parents would make excuses. He's just spirited, boys will be boys, don't be so sensitive, he's just teasing you. It never mattered if he humiliated me in front of guests, destroyed my school projects, or insulted me when I was already struggling. I was always expected to forgive and move on. Things got worse when I started working on my thesis. It was a massive project, my final paper before graduation, worth nearly 40% of my overall degree. I've been preparing it for months. Interviews, field research, late-night revisions, multiple backups on cloud and external drives. My laptop had become my life. I barely slept. I skipped outings, declined family dinners, missed birthdays. Every word I typed felt like one step closer to freedom. I just needed to get it submitted in a week, and then I'd be done. But Armin couldn't stand being ignored. That week, he was louder than ever. Blasting music at night, slamming doors, barging into my room like a child starved of attention. I kept asking him, over and over, to please respect the time I had left, just until my submission was done. But of course, that just made him push harder. One night, when I told him to turn the music down for the third time, something in him snapped. He stormed into my room, eyes full of rage, and before I could even stand up, he grabbed my laptop from my desk and hurled it across the floor. The moment the laptop hit the ground, I felt like my world shattered with it. I dropped to my knees and stared at the mess: the shattered screen, the twisted casing, the silence where my future had lived just moments ago. I couldn't even speak. My throat closed up, my chest tightened, the panic hit like a tidal wave. I reached out, my hands shaking, trying to turn it back on, praying maybe it was just the screen, maybe the hard drive was safe, maybe. But the truth hit me harder than the sound of the impact. It was gone. Everything I had worked for gone in one act of pure, thoughtless rage. I screamed, not because I was angry, but because I was helpless. My lungs burned. I sobbed so hard I thought I would throw up. My thesis was due in 6 days. 6 days. No one in my department granted extensions without medical emergencies, and I had nothing to prove what had just happened. No backup with the final edits, no printed draft. Everything, my sources, my notes, my formatting, had been on that laptop. My dreams of graduating, the job opportunities lined up, my entire future. It all disappeared in seconds. My parents came running when they heard the noise, and for a second I thought they'd be horrified, that they'd finally understand how serious everything was. But when they saw the broken laptop and me curled on the floor, their reaction wasn't shock. It was annoyance. What happened now? My mother asked. Armin stood behind her, arms crossed, looking smug. She overreacted. I was just messing around, he said with that fake innocent tone he always used when he got caught. And then my dad laughed, actually laughed. You'll figure it out, he said, shrugging. Come on, it's not the end of the world. My mom nodded. You're smart, just redo it. Maybe it's a sign you needed to revise it better. I looked up at them, my face drenched in tears, and realized something I had always known but never wanted to accept. They didn't take me seriously, not my work, not my pain, not even this. They dismissed my panic like it was drama. Not once did they scold Armin, not once did they ask if I was okay. For the next 2 days, I was a ghost in my own home. I barely ate, barely spoke. I was either on my bed, curled up in a blanket staring at the ceiling, or sitting at repair shops with false hope. One technician opened the back of the laptop and looked at me with pity in his eyes. The drive's damaged. You might get a few fragments out if you're lucky, but the full recovery, He didn't need to finish his sentence. I thanked him anyway, took the laptop back, and carried it like a coffin. Everywhere I turned, I hit a wall, deadlines, dead ends, silence from professors, silence from classmates, and all the while, Armin roamed around the house laughing, joking, playing video games like nothing had happened. I couldn't look at him, not because I hated him, though I did, but because I hated that he had won, that he got away with it, that he crushed something that meant everything to me and didn't even get a slap on the wrist. And my parents, my so-called parents, still treated him like the sun shone from his mouth. I was invisible. My work, my sleepless nights, my dreams. They were all background noise to them. It hurt. It hurt more than I could ever explain. But I didn't cry anymore. The sadness had curdled into something sharper. It started as a knot in my chest, tight and hot. Then it spread to my stomach, coiled like a snake. Eventually, it settled in my throat, choking me with a single word: revenge. The trigger came one night when I passed by Armin's room and heard him talking on speakerphone. He was laughing about me. He told his friend she was crying like someone died, bro. It's just a file, she's so dramatic. Honestly, she had it coming, always acting like she's smarter than everyone. I froze, my hands clenched into fists. That's when the fog lifted. I stopped feeling like a victim. Something inside me snapped into focus. I wiped the tears from my eyes and whispered to myself, fine, if he wants to play dirty, I'll show him how ugly this game can really get. That night, I opened my laptop, what was left of it, and began digging. Not for data, but for dirt. If Armin thought he could destroy my future and laugh about it, he clearly forgot one thing. He wasn't the only one who knew how to keep secrets. I planned everything down to the second. I didn't just want to lash out. I wanted to burn the illusion of Armin that my parents worshipped, and I knew exactly when and where to strike. My parents had organized a big family dinner that weekend. It was my aunt's birthday, and relatives from both sides were coming. Uncles, cousins, even my grandmother who barely left the house anymore. The house would be full, and everyone would be watching. Perfect. I spent the next few days gathering every single piece of evidence I had on Armin, every screenshot of his online essay orders, every receipt from the sites he used. I found emails between him and ghostwriters, full of instructions like make it sound smart, but not too smart. I dug through his browser history, which he hadn't cleared in weeks, and found gambling sites with transaction logs, some charged to my dad's credit card. Then I remembered the missing gold chain my mom had been looking for a few months ago. I checked Armin's drawer, nothing, but I did find a pawn shop receipt in the lining of his backpack, the date matching the day after the chain disappeared. I drove to the pawn shop myself and confirmed it. Same item, same name. They even had a copy of his ID scanned. I scanned it too, digital evidence. I even recorded a short video on my phone of Armin's room, where he'd hidden a box of empty vape cartridges and a stash of edibles, something my conservative, overprotective parents would definitely lose their minds over. When the day of the dinner came, I felt strangely calm. I dressed nicely, kept my tone polite, smiled through the small talk. Armin, of course, was the star of the show, joking loudly, charming the relatives, soaking up compliments about how grown-up and responsible he looked. My mom even pulled me aside and whispered, "See, he's not so bad. Maybe try to forgive him already." I just smiled, "Sure, Mom," after dessert. As we finished eating, I stood up and said, "Actually, before dessert, I put together something special for everyone." I plugged in my USB to the living room TV and started the slideshow. At first, people thought it was a family photo montage, but slide 2 changed everything. The silence that followed my presentation was unlike anything I had ever experienced in that house. My uncle's fork froze midair. My grandma looked heartbroken. My mom's face had gone ghost, white, and my dad's jaw was locked in place like stone. Armin stood frozen, panicked, muttering, "This is fake, this is edited." But the timestamps, the receipts, the voice recordings, they didn't lie. I had laid out everything like a trial attorney, and the jury was stunned. The boy they all praised, the golden child, had been exposed as a liar, a thief, a manipulator, and me, the dramatic one, the overreactor. I had finally made them see who I was, not weak, not emotional, but someone who had been silenced and underestimated for far too long. No one said a word as I calmly unplugged the USB, picked up my bag, and walked to the front door. My mother rushed after me, tears in her eyes, calling my name, saying we could talk about this. But I turned to her and said, "You only cared when the house of lies burned down, not when I was the one bleeding inside it." I left that night and never looked back. I stayed with a friend for a few weeks while I rewrote the missing parts of my thesis from scratch, piecing together what I had printed and emailed earlier. I barely slept, but I was fueled by something deeper than caffeine, by justice. And somehow, by the grace of my own perseverance, I submitted my thesis on time. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and it was enough. I graduated with honors. I got my dream job. I moved out for good. And Armin, he spiraled. My parents tried to cover it up, but word spread. He lost credibility, flunked out of school, and started lashing out at the same people who once defended him. The golden boy's shine wore off, and the house that once ignored me now echoed with the consequences of their choices. I don't regret what I did. I regret that I ever believed their silence meant my pain didn't matter, because it did. And now, so do I.